In a small village forgotten by time, light flickered through the cracks of one lonely cabin. Inside sat a young poet named Edric. He was not a warrior, nor a hunter, nor a farmer. He was something rarer, a man who listened to the silence as if it were speaking to him. He sat before a dim fire, holding a piece of charcoal, its edge worn from the endless nights he spent writing. Animal skin parchment lay across a rough wooden table. Outside, thunder murmured softly. Inside, Edric murmured even softer. He was searching for a word he had never heard before, a word no one in his village could teach him, a word that felt like smoke in the chest, warm but impossible to hold. Every evening, a girl passed by his hut to fill her jars at the river. Her name was Winna. She always moved quietly, gently, as if she didn't want to disturb the world around her. Edric would watch her from his window, and each time something inside him tightened, a soft pain, a trembling warmth. He had known fear, he had known hunger and cold, but this feeling, this was new. This was different. And for weeks he tried to name it. But the English of that time, the old tongue, was a language shaped for survival. It had words for battle, for sword, for shield, for hunger, for the harshness of wind and the cruelty of winter. But it did not yet have a word for what Edric carried inside him. That night he leaned back, listening to the crackle of the fire, listening to his own breathing, listening to the echo of a feeling that refused to vanish. He whispered into the warm darkness, "What am I supposed to call this?" His whisper vanished into the air. And then something answered, not from outside, but from memory. He remembered a story his grandfather used to tell about a soft, ancient word, older than the village, older than the kingdom, perhaps older than the language itself. The word was Lufu. A word almost forgotten, a word used only in prayers and in the quiet moments between grandmother and child, a word that meant kindness, gentle affection, a small warmth carried from one heart to another. Edric sat up. The fire reflected in his eyes. He felt something shift inside him, as if the world had finally whispered the answer. He dipped his charcoal in ink and wrote the word, slowly, carefully. Lufu. The moment he wrote it, the hut felt warmer. The rain became softer. The fire seemed to lean closer. He wrote again. Min Lufu is Brennenbe Swa Se. My love burns like the sea. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of the word in his chest, soft and powerful, fragile and eternal. He spoke it out loud, just once. Lufu. The sound drifted through the hut like a prayer. Edric didn't know that he had just shaped history. He didn't know that the word he revived would travel far beyond the walls of his hut. He didn't know that centuries later, millions would use it as easily as breathing. But on that night, it was just a whisper shared between a poet and a fire. Centuries begin to turn. The word Lufu lived quietly at first. Mothers whispered it to their children. Poets used it in hidden lines. It appeared in small poems, in church texts, in messages carved into wooden gifts lovers exchanged. Then Christianity arrived in England. Monks, scribes, and scholars brought new meanings, new stories, new emotions. They adopted Lufu into their writings to describe something even greater, the love between people and God. Slowly, the word expanded. It began to include mercy, compassion, grace. It held more than romance. It held humanity itself. As centuries passed, the word began to change its shape. Lufu, to love, to luve, to love. But no matter how the spelling changed, its heartbeat remained the same. Even after wars, plagues, and the collapse of kingdoms, the word survived. It refused to disappear. Then came the Normans. They brought French words, amour, passion, désir, elegant, poetic, full of softness. The English language absorbed many of them, but held on to one. Love. Why? Because it came from the people, from the villages, from the firesides and small poems written in old huts by men like Edric. Love was not a word of kings. It was a word of hearts. And hearts do not forget easily. Shakespeare's quill touched it next. He wrote it in tragedies, in comedies, in sonnets that still echo today. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind. Every time he wrote it, the word grew bigger, stronger, more universal.
By then, the word no longer belonged to England. It belonged to the world. Then came the modern age. Cities grew. Machines roared. Screens lit up the night. New languages began to mix, and English spread across continents. The word love found new places, in music, in cinema, in whispered confessions, in text messages glowing late at night. People used it casually. I love this song. I love pizza. I love this moment. But every time someone said it with real feeling, something ancient awakened, an echo of Lufu, whispered by a lonely poet sitting beside a fire hundreds of years ago. You can still hear it today, in the pauses between syllables, in the warmth behind the voice, in the way the word softens the hardest hearts. And so, with every I love you, the world repeats a story that began in a wooden hut on a rainy night in ancient England. A story born not from war, nor from power, but from a quiet ache. The ache of a young man trying to name a feeling that refused to stay silent. A feeling that would one day belong to every language, every culture, every soul. The word lived. The word changed. The word survived. And it all began with a whisper. Lufu.